Welcome to our Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 4 and Part 5 bonus episode. My name's Jules.
I'm Lex.
If you haven't seen our 1, 2 and 3 episode, you might want to listen to that first. And if you haven't actually seen Crisis Parts 4 and 5, you might want to watch those first, because this is going to be wall-to-wall spoilers. I'm just going to dive straight in with a bit of recapping of what actually happened. The group splits up, that were at the vanishing point. Half go to Maltus to stop the Anti-Monitor from setting all these events in motion. They arrive safely. The other half go to the Dawn of Time to fight the Anti-Monitor. They don't arrive safely, and they all travel via the Speed Force because Oliver, as the Spectre, kind of tells them to. The ones that get knocked off along the way have to be kind of saved by Barry. He has to go and retrieve them from these big moments in their lives. And while he's retrieving them, something amazing happens.
We get a glimpse of the DCEU Flash. Ezra Miller shows up, and we have, again, Flash facing Flash off. I really liked the interaction between the two of them, especially when they were like kind of geeking out about each other's suits.
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. They are very different takes on the suit, aren't they? And I like that Ezra Miller was like, yours looks really comfortable, as if mine is like so uncomfortable. It's unbearable to wear. I just really like this. I thought they were going to turn it into like a Marx Brothers mirror scene at one point, where that one would move its arm, the other one would move the same arm. They'd kind of do this little routine. I just remember when Ezra Miller was cast and we were talking about it, we were just so disappointed because we wanted this connectivity. We thought, give Grant Gustin a go, you know. Marvel seemed to have all this connectivity. Why not build one world? And they went this completely different direction with it. At that point, if you told me that these two versions of The Flash would meet up in any form of media, I wouldn't have believed it. As Easter eggs go, I'm trying to think of a better one in the 21st century.
I think it's pretty amazing that they managed to keep it a secret.
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, because like the first 3 episodes, we knew everything that was going to happen with that. The Lucifer's cameo was supposed to be a surprise as well, and that got blown. So the fact that they were able to bring Ezra Miller in and like nobody let it slip, that's pretty fucking amazing.
Yeah, I hope it was one of those scenarios where like nobody knew, like, and even the people who were in it watched it and thought, what the fuck? Ezra Miller, oh my God. I know you don't want to talk about this, but I've got to say it gives me more faith in the fact that Warner Brothers have a heart. They know which way the wind is blowing. They can pick up on what the fans want, and this is a huge bit of fan service. And it gives me more faith that one day their ice hearts might break and we might get a Snyder Cut.
You know what I hope happens? I hope that they release the Snyder Cut, it's not necessarily a hope, but I predict this will happen. If they release the Snyder Cut, like if it actually gets finished and they release it, all of these people who've been like advocating and harassing people and generally being obnoxious assholes about it will be completely disappointed because it won't live up to their expectations that they've built up over the past few years.
What if it does, though?
It won't. People are going to be pissed off, and then they're going to start this other movement. Like, no, that's not the real Snyder Cut. We need the real Snyder Cut. And they'll blame somebody for ruining it, and it'll just perpetuate forever and ever and ever, and it will never end.
So these two kind of sub-stories that are going on, obviously Barry collecting the people that dispersed through time, the other 3 going to try and stop the Monitor from doing the thing that he did to kind of put these events in motion. All of it's a waste of time. Neither scenario really moves the plot forward at all. That was like a big chunk of the episode that was ultimately wasted time, I thought.
I feel like the first 3 episodes were like really, really meticulously planned out, and it felt like every single thing that happened was a necessary part of the plot. To be honest, in these 2 episodes, it didn't really feel like a hell of a lot actually happened. I guess it felt like a repetition of the first 3 episodes. We're just moving people around to different places and fighting the same guy kind of multiple times, and then Oliver died again, so we had to go through the whole like tribute to Oliver thing again. I didn't like these last 2 episodes as much as I enjoyed the first 3, but I also think they suffered from having such a long gap in between. I think the crossover should have been kind of closer together, maybe like spread out over a couple of weeks instead of having this huge massive gap in between.
Yeah, I think my general thoughts are that I like 2, 3 and 4. 1 was a bit just underwhelming. It was very admin-heavy, slow
there was a lot of setup that they could have done in the shows prior to the crossover event. I think it probably should have started with episode 2 and just gone straight through to the end, and then had episode 5 introducing us to the new world, because I mean I have loads of questions about the new world, and I want them all answered like right now.
Yeah, and this episode kind of culminated with Oliver shooting this beam out of his mouth, was it?
His eyes.
Out of his eyes into the sky. And he basically said to the others, it was like that thing at the end of Elf, when you have to believe in Santa for his like sleigh to rise again and him to be able to escape. Yeah, whatever they were the paragon of, they had to like focus on that, like humanity and what was it, truth and other stuff.
It amounted to essentially everybody lining up in a row for like 1 second of film, and then boom, the problem's solved.
Yeah.
It was very underwhelming.
I just that was super fucking lame.
Yeah.
Like it was the weirdest thing. Like you know, you've got Supergirl and you've got Batwoman, you've got all these powerful characters, and they're just standing there. I'm surprised they didn't kind of close their eyes and like cross their fingers and kind of, you know, there's no place at home, click their heels together.
It would have been better if they'd had something like that,
Yeah.
because as it stands, like they literally were all just lined up in a row looking heroic, and it lasted for a second or two, and then that was it. They accomplished their goal. It was very underwhelming after, you know, all of this build up and this anticipation coming up to it, that essentially they just willed the universe back into being.
And then, like you said, Oliver died. And I mean, I love Oliver. I love Stephen Amell. It's been a great ride, but I have no more tears to shed for the death of Oliver Queen. He's probably still not dead. That's the thing. He died in episode 1.
Yeah.
Resurrected in episode 2. He's died in episode 4. I was very surprised he wasn't resurrected in episode 5, but I think he's going to come back for the Arrow finale in some capacity as the Spectre, and him and Felicity will probably ride off into the sunset together. Is this just like one too many? Obviously, he died in, was it season 3 or 4 as well, when Ra's al Ghul killed him.
He's died an awful lot.
Yeah.
And you know, like, I think he's probably run out of lives at this point, or should have run out of lives at this point, the number of times that he's died and can come back to life. But I mean, that is kind of the thing about Arrow in particular. Nobody really stays dead.
Yeah. If he had an MRI, I mean, he'd have no cartilage left. He'd have so much calcification in his joints, probably brain damage, concussion, that he's never really had looked at. He's been through it.
When they killed him off in the first episode, I was thinking kind of like, damn, like...
Yeah.
That's kind of brutal. I didn't expect that. I expected him to at least last until like the Arrow episode, and then they brought him like right back, and it was kind of like, oh, we're gonna do that. So yeah, I wasn't really thrilled to see him die again, because I felt like we'd already done that, and they devoted a lot more time to it this time. Really, I don't think they had enough material for 5 episodes.
No, I don't.
I mean, actually, they could have had enough material for 5 episodes.
I mean, there are a lot of books. There's a lot of source material for this. They just didn't. They don't have the shows, or they don't have the established characters to kind of flesh it out.
I think it would have been a much stronger arc with fewer episodes and less Oliver dying.
Maybe like comatose after episode 1, and Jim Corrigan visits him and kind of does
like
some kind of spell on him or something.
And he he comes out of the coma as Spectre.
Yeah.
That would have been better than like Oliver dying and then coming back and then dying again and then coming back.
Moving kind of on to episode 5, my opinion is that this should have been... enough has happened as a result of Crisis for there to be a whole episode of epilogue and fallout. Right off the bat, I wouldn't have had this weird... I know it's a Legends episode. Hold my hands up, like I know we were going to have something, but the 5-minute segment of Bebo and this real weird thief, remove it entirely. And the fact that they had to fight the Anti-Monitor again, and this Anti-Monitor fight had all the kind of CGI issues and kind of low stakes and kind of just felt tacked on, as the one in episode 1 did, where they also fought these shadow demons. I just think you could have had the whole episode where they're just finding out about the new status quo. 4 really packed episodes, all with the Crisis, and then this a true epilogue where they just talked about stuff and they just found out what was happening. And the great thing is, the one thing we all wanted, one unified Earth with all the CW characters, and they didn't walk it back. We have it. Supergirl's in it, Black Lightning's in it, all the other people are in it, and that is great moving forward.
I wanted a more like Legends episode. I mean, going into it, I expected the Legends, and we didn't really see many of them. We got Sarah, Ava, and Nate for half a second. Rory was in there, but it was mostly focused on like Flash and Supergirl again, and so that was kind of disappointing. The Bebo thing could have been interesting, but they didn't really make much of it. The way they did it, it was so truncated and brief. It was kind of like, why are we having this here? I don't know if that like magician thief will appear later on
I
again.
hope not.
I don't know. I kind of hope they do, just to justify his appearance in this episode, because otherwise it's like, what the fuck did they bring him out for?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a personal opinion. I know it's a Legends episode, you want them to kind of delve more into that. I would have preferred them to have kind of abandoned it and just had it as a Crisis episode rather than a Legends episode. I know that's not what they do, but this 5-minute Bebo and Thief thing was such a waste of time.
See, I think they could have done a Crisis episode with a Legends flavor, particularly with like rediscovering the multiverse. The Legends would be a really great vehicle for that, because they do kind of travel, like they're the ones who are traveling through space and time, and they have Gideon and everything, so it would have been really easy for them to sort of like tap in and figure out like what the multiverse is like now, instead of this kind of series of scenes of like, oh, we're all on the same Earth now. Like, because I mean, that happened about 3 times. They're like, oh, we're all together, yay! And it felt weird.
Yeah. I'd really like it if Legends, the show, kind of did what you just said moving forward for this season. I think that would be a really interesting thing for them to do.
I mean, that said, I'm really happy that Black Lightning is like been brought into the Arrowverse fold. I think it's really cool. Although his new suit, I'm not super fond of. I liked the old one. It looked a lot cooler with the lights and stuff. This one looks kind of cheap.
No, I think it's really good that all the CW shows are all together, and he's really cool. Like, I was kind of hoping we'd get maybe a few more Black Lightning characters, but here's hoping that moving forward, other crossovers, we might get like a Black Lightning episode of a crossover, which would be really cool.
That would be awesome.
That'd be really awesome.
I've been wanting to see Black Lightning interact with these characters since the very beginning. Yeah. So the fact that they've got kind of like a Justice League now, and he's there, and everybody's on the same Earth, it's cool.
I know there is a President Luthor storyline that exists in the DC. When he spoke to Smallville's Clark Kent, he was talking about President Luthor, as in Michael Rosenbaum's Luthor. I hope that was a purposeful thing to do, because that as a storyline, maybe even on the Superman show, would be quite interesting. Clark Kent or Kara going up against the perception that he's good, and they're trying to prove to people that he's actually this terrible, terrible individual. I'll be really interested to see what Lena... Does she remember?
Is she on like Team Kara now?
Yeah.
Or is she still like mortal enemies?
It'd be quite funny if they, after all this time, us wanting Lena to know her true identity, if this is just rewritten it all.
It wouldn't surprise me, but I will be so pissed off, because we worked so hard to get to the point where Lena knows that Kara is Supergirl, and if they like walk it back now, it's just going to be like very frustrating.
And the DEO is a subsidiary of Lex Corp, or Luthor Corp, which is, again, another interesting thing moving forward. There always seems to be some sort of oversight in Supergirl, though. It's either a Catco or it's at the DEO, where she's butting heads with authority. And I just feel like we've seen that too many times, and I presume that's what's going to happen. There'll be new oversight, new rules in play, and she'll have to kind of negotiate her way around them.
And obviously she's going to distrust Lex Luthor, because we all know he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
I'm less thrilled, because this means we're going to be seeing a lot more of him, and I don't particularly like this version of Lex Luthor. I liked just having Lena in the story, and Lex kind of being this figure that was talked about but not really seen, sort of the way that Superman was talked about but not really seen. And we might get like an episode or 2 of them, but they weren't mainstays on Supergirl. And I kind of feel like Superman and Metropolis are slowly taking over Supergirl's territory, and I think the dynamic before, when Superman was kind of off the table as far as Supergirl was concerned, was much better than having them constantly team up.
The only reason I think they've actually resurrected John Cryer's Lex Luthor is, A, because obviously Michael Rosenbaum, he would have been in the crossover, which would have been amazing. Can you actually imagine that?
I would have loved that.
And the second reason is, I think that if you're going to have a Superman show, he has to be alive. He doesn't have to be in every season, but he has to be alive and kind of in the shadows.
It's kind of like Batman without the Joker. You can't. It doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Superman without Lex Luthor.
Yeah, so he's going to be out there somewhere scheming away. But yeah, I mean, that's why he's back. But yeah, I don't enjoy this interpretation of Lex Luthor. Like I said, when we did our other Crisis podcast, when he killed Brandon Routh's Till Kingdom Come Superman, I was fucking devastated. I was really enjoying that interpretation of Superman. And for anybody to have come in, of all the people I wouldn't want to have kind of wormed their way in, it would have been this Lex Luthor. So that was a real disappointment. Like you said, yeah, we had this Supergirl Flash fighting the Weather Witch situation. Oh, we're on the same Earths. And it was, instead of thinking about all the people that might, like the billions of people on Earth 38 that haven't made the journey, because we would suddenly have 15 billion people-ish on planet Earth.
Yeah,
they were all just happy and skipping around. And
how did they decide? How was it decided who survived?
Yeah.
The Earth merging together.
Yeah.
Or maybe people's like doppelgangers all merged into a single unified individual.
And then we had the big Shadow Demons, Antimatter is alive, team fights the demons while the Geek Squad makes a shrinking bomb.
The Shadow Demons just, how were they even a threat? Because people were punching them?
The 7 Paragons, including the human man, geek guy, I can't remember his name, he was just punching them and killing them.
They were just punching them and they would like dissipate into dust, and then they were being shot at. It was kind of like, why is anybody using their superpowers if you can just punch them and they disappear?
I just remember watching it thinking, this is horrible.
Yeah, I mean, it was bad enough in the first episode as an entry-level fight, but in...
Whose idea was it? Oh, they worked in episode 1, let's get these guys back again.
Exactly, like, I don't think we should have had a fight in episode 5, but if we were going to have a fight in episode 5, it should have been, like, fucking apocalyptic.
I don't think we should have had a fight in episode 5 either. Like I said, I would love the whole thing to have been kind of epilogue and more of a character development kind of thing about the new status quo and what it actually meant for Friedland and National City and potentially their metropolis as well.
Yeah, we found out that like we know that all of National City is now on Earth Prime, but we didn't find out about Freeland, and so we don't know if Jefferson's family is still alive, because all of the people from National City and Catco and everything, it's just kind of been transplanted to Earth Prime. Don't know where or how, but it is. So, you know, is Jefferson's world also in there?
I hope so.
Yeah, because like I really like his family. Yeah. I think they make a good team.
It's an entirely different vibe, that show as well, which is refreshing. Yeah. It's very much its own thing. So I just hope this leads to more kind of small scale crossovers, like in mid seasons. And yeah, I think like you said, it was just the fight was no good. It was on par with like episode 1's fight, which was also no good. But then when they resolved that and they went to like the Hall of Justice, which was quite nice, and they had the table and they had the 8 chairs, and Kara was there and Superman was there and Black Lightning was there, and it was like a prototype Justice League.
Yeah. It
remains to be seen whether they can actually use the term Justice League. Everything epilogue-wise, everything character development-wise, I quite liked about this episode. But the Bebo, Robert, and the Anti-Monitor coming back yet again just muddied the waters and left me with a bit of a bitter taste in my mouth about this episode in general, I would say.
Yeah, I think I kind of feel the same about it. It was a little bit anticlimactic. Anticlimactic is not really the right word, but it was kind of a disappointing episode to end on, and particularly with it being a Legends episode. 'Cause I really enjoyed Legends. I didn't at first, but it's gotten to be one of my favorite shows. So I was really looking forward to them coming back, because we've been waiting quite a while for Legends to return. And to have this be their sort of first foray back, and we don't even really see most of the Legends, aside from Sarah and Ray. Yeah, it felt like they were trying to stretch the material they had rather than putting actual substantial material into it.
A few little things worth talking about. Clark and Lois now have 2 sons as a result of this happening. Sarah Diggle.
Which we kind of knew, because they did put a casting call out for 2
I
young
didn't
boys.
see that. I just remember seeing the one kid in the previous episodes and thought that was it. But
yeah, like a few months ago it came out that they were doing a casting call for the Lois and Clark show for 2 boys, and so it was theorized that they would be the super kids.
That'd be interesting. I'm interested to see what direction that show is going to go in, juggling the kids and the journalism and Superman being Superman. It'll be interesting to see what they kind of do with it. Sarah Diggle is alive.
Yeah.
Barry, I think, wrote her out of existence when Flashpoint happened.
Yes.
One line which I thought was really brilliant, when Renee said to John, "We used to have Aurora in our team," and John said, "Yes, we did." And I'm hoping Ragman's coming back, which would be really cool, because He was great.
He was the best out of like the beta team.
The base team, yeah.
He was in there for such a short period of time before they got rid of him.
Yeah.
I was really sad when he left.
They kept Renee on.
Yeah, they kept Renee, got rid of Ragman. It was like, what the
makes
fuck?
no sense. Ragman was awesome, and I really hope he comes back. And then we just had all these forming of all the new Earths. Earth 2 is going to have Stargirl TV show on it. Earth 12, Green Lantern Corps. This is the HBO show I think they're talking about. I know so little about the Green Lantern, but I'm ready now. I'm ready to learn. I'm intrigued enough to want this show, and I'll probably watch that TV show.
See, like everything I've seen of Green Lantern, it's just been really lame. Granted, like I've not read the comics, so I don't know if it's not lame in the comics. But every like TV show, film thing I've seen, it's just kind of really lame.
Like
so.
Boy Scout cops of the universe.
Yeah, you know, flying around with their little magic ring. It just, I'm not into it.
I think their level of villains will be like nothing we've ever seen in DC TV before.
That could redeem it for me.
Yeah.
I do like a good villain.
I mean, HBO's got the money. Green Lanterns, it's going to be set in space. Hopefully some
presumably
big fucking
with
villains.
HBO behind it, it'll be a bit dark as well.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing. Everything I've seen of Green Lantern has been sort of kid-friendly.
Yeah.
And I don't tend to go for that. So I might appreciate a more adult Green Lantern with some really hardcore villains.
Obviously, all of the crossovers originate from kind of the Arrowverse, but this could mean that crossovers originate from maybe other shows instead, which would be very interesting. And so if we could get a darker interpretation, some of these characters moving over to like be seen on HBO, you never know what they might do with that.
Well, we're going to get a Roy Harper on Titans.
Yes, we are.
Which I'm very excited about.
And a Lex Luthor and a Barbara Gordon.
Yeah.
So.
And they included Swamp Thing in one of the worlds, so like.
Yeah, Earth
it would be
19 Swamp Thing. Yeah.
It would be kind of cool if it somehow got resurrected again.
Yes.
Because I don't know, I sort of feel like the inclusion of it as sort of means that it's not completely dead.
I think it'll be like a John Constantine situation where he's wheeled out at the right time. I'd love to think that he could join the Wave Rider, but I don't think that would be a particularly good fit. But I hope we get some good crossover with Swamp Thing because the CGI was just so
It was
good.
amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really aesthetically pleasing show to look at. But I agree, I don't think Swamp Thing can really carry a show on his own. At least the way they were doing it, when they focused on the CDC thing and like the medical stuff, and Swamp Thing wasn't really in it so much. But I think like with Constantine on the Wave Rider, that opens up a lot of room for team-ups between the two of them, and because their storylines are quite involved a lot of the times.
Yeah, and Matt Ryan said he would go on Swamp Thing. He said he would, if they ever need him, he'll be there. Similarly to how Stephen Amell said to him when the show got cancelled, you need me, I'll be there. So fingers crossed. I mean, like you said, I think it's acknowledgement and it's something, and I just hope the next crossover isn't just Arrowverse, it's all these other shows as well, and Swamp Thing, Pride of Place, because nobody else is like Swamp Thing, are they? Any of these characters.
I mean, for years we've been talking about wanting Black Lightning in with the CW, and we thought that would never happen. So, and it finally did. I mean, it took a while, but we finally got there. So there's a possibility that, you know, somewhere down the line we could have the Arrowverse and the streaming universe. You know, maybe the Titans show up and Doom Patrol. That was a bit of a weird thing that Doom Patrol, Swamp Thing, and Titans are all on separate Earths.
Yeah, Earth 19 Swamp Thing, Earth 9 Titans, Earth 21 Doom Patrol. It seems like a bit of an oversight if Gara has travelled to a different Earth.
Yeah, and
to be with the Titans. I think I was probably hoping they would all be on the same Earth, just because a DCEU crossover would be very good. Some really interesting characters in there. I mean, you can't really imagine Titans and Doom Patrol they seem like chalk and cheese.
I thought that about Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy. I was like, how are they going to like put those two groups together? They're like completely incompatible, and they did it, and it worked out really well. So now I'm like, if
it's a two-parter with Titans in Doom Patrol, and obviously it'd be very Doom Patrol themed and toned. That's an episode of TV that I would like to watch. That would be pretty insane.
I think that would be the way to do it. To have the Titans come to Doom Patrol rather than Doom Patrol go to Titans.
Yeah.
The magic of the Doom Patrol show would sort of be lost if Doom Patrol people went to Titans.
Yeah. Earth 96 is the Reeve Ralph universe. And I like that he didn't have the in mourning emblem, it was the actual Superman emblem. So presumably his wife didn't die, his child didn't die, the Joker didn't blow up the Daily Planet, which is nice. That's a nice thing.
It's nice.
And he was flying around in the exact same way that Christopher Reeve flies around. I thought he was going to do like a little salute, a little wave or something. But yeah, that was nice. And then we now have Earth Prime, and Stephen Amell's voiceover said the age of superheroes has begun. And I'm just feeling very positive about we call it the Arrowverse, and now we've got these other ones. It's more like the Greg Berlanti-verse. I'm really enthused about what can happen now in the future.
I like really love the fact that they've just tied everything DC together and it's all interconnected. It's kind of brilliant in the same way that the MCU is brilliant. Rather than trying to emulate the MCU, this is the direction the DCEU should kind of go in, that we have a multiverse basically, and they're all kind of interconnected and anybody can appear anywhere, and yeah, I'm down for that.
What are your thoughts, I guess, on the crossover as a whole, the whole 5-parter? Because I would say by and large I'm pretty happy with it. I think it was definitely kind of style over substance in the sense that there was so much great fan service and so many great Easter eggs and cameos, and that's great because they've obviously listened to the fans. You know, I laughed, I didn't cry, but, you know, I felt sad about things, and it was a real emotional roller coaster a lot across episodes 2, 3 and 4. The story kind of was secondary, to say the least. I'm not trying to defend such like poor storytelling, but as an experiment, as a 5-part experiment, I can only call it a success, really, just because of the emotional roller coaster I felt throughout it, whether it was, you know, seeing Ezra Miller, whether it was seeing Lucifer. I really enjoyed the Superman versus Superman fight as well. Acknowledgement of Keaton's world, Kevin Conroy, you know, Green Lantern as well, like things to look out for in the future rather than just thinking about the past. So I don't know. I think I'm saying that fan service was enough in this case. It isn't always, but I don't overthink maybe some of the storytelling is what I'm trying to say. If you think about these shows and how fandom and geekdom in general, it's about how it makes you feel. And I felt, you know, so many things throughout this 5 episodes kind of arc that, yeah, it's thumbs up. It's not 10 out of 10, but I mostly have positive memories about this 5-episode crossover.
I think 2, 3, and 4 were really strong episodes. 1 and 5 kind of faltered a bit. 1 was just kind of too slow. 5 didn't really have enough to go on, or they didn't utilize the story material they had, because we could have found out a lot more about the status quo as it is, but we didn't. I love all the fan service. I love the fact that everything in the DC universe is connected now in one way or another, which just opens up to having crossovers and appearances with anything, basically. They've really, really unified the whole kind of DC world into one big thing, which is awesome, and hopefully will bring us some new shows. I think this crossover managed to pull off some really major heavy lifting that needed to be done, but it was also still very entertaining and enjoyable, so yeah, it's definitely a success.
We talked about the fact that not enough heavy lifting was done in the shows before the crossover, but I think by the looks of it, we're going to get a lot of fallout in all of the shows. They're going to really address this directly about the new status quo. I've seen the trailer for next week's Flash. I've seen the trailer for Legends. I really want them to embrace it. And hopefully the ramifications of this crossover will be felt. And it will feel very kind of unified.
As far as crossovers go, like, where does this rank in your Arrowverse crossovers? Is it like kind of one of your favorites, or could you have given it a miss?
I mean, in terms of how it made me feel, I mean, it's difficult to say that anything has kind of matched this. I think there have been better stories, but like I said, I'm going to go with the style over the substance this time around, because so much work has been done, and I think you really have to congratulate Warner Brothers. And what did those words just come out of my mouth? This has referenced everything from Watchmen to the DCEU. There are comic tie-ins to this as well, which I'd quite like to get, that actually, I believe, directly relate this to Rebirth's comic versions of like Batman or something. So there is nobody left. Nobody has been left out of this. Every single DC property there's ever been has been tied into this. I'm just trying to think about the other stories. I think last year's was okay. I think Crisis on Earth X, from memory, was actually quite a good story. I think that was a 3-parter. Last year's was the kind of continuing body swap thing, which I wasn't really into, I don't think. I think Crisis on Earth X, with the kind of Nazi versions of them, I think was a better story. But I think this just wins it for kind of emotion and planning. And obviously they advertised it at the end of the last crossover, so they've given themselves 12 months and 5 episodes. But yeah, I think this is a success. I really do. You don't see this on TV. You don't see it done well that often. What about you? I mean, where does this kind of fall into your crossover hierarchy?
I'd say it's pretty high up there. I don't know if it's necessarily my favorite one because I have trouble going with style over substance, but so much planning went into this and so many different pieces had to be brought together for it to work, and they actually managed to do it. I remember like going into it and like hearing all the different cameos that are in it. I was like really excited, but I was also kind of worried because it's DC and we know how they are with things. It doesn't always work out the way it should, and there was every chance that they could have completely dropped the ball and it would have ended up just a big, huge clusterfuck. That didn't happen, and it was kind of nice to just have 5 episodes of fan service of DC basically like saying, hey, we see you, the fans, and we're going to give you whatever you want.
I like to think that Warner Brothers were like, we see what you're building here. Here's Ezra Miller. Like, here is a piece to play with, Maybe Mark Guggenheim kind of approached them like, oh, and it's a 1,000,000-to-1 shot, but they've seen that this is a celebration of DC. That's what it is, really. It's a celebration of all things DC. And they've kind of said, okay, yeah, we'll buy into this. And you never know, it could mean better budgets, it could mean more general exposure, it could mean lots of things. But yeah, I just think good on everybody involved. I think it's a real success all round. And I'd probably give it something like the whole experience like a 7.58, which I think is like really strong.
Yeah, I mean, I would say 7 out of 10.
I just hope the shows kind of take this energy and this momentum into the seasons, because we stopped watching them, didn't we?
Yeah.
You just hope this gives them some renewed energy.
I think Supergirl definitely will because of the presence of Lex Luthor. Flash is kind of debatable. They could easily kind of go do the thing where they pretend the crossover never happened. But yeah, I'd like to see some more crossovers in between the shows, like mini crossovers, not like huge, not like the annual crossover. I want to see Batwoman and Supergirl do some stuff together.
What was the weirdest cameo or bit of information you were told that was going to happen in this? Because I was told some absolute gems that I'm kind of happy didn't happen.
No, it was like everything I heard about it like happened, and then there was I missed the reveal that Lucifer was going to be in it. So when I saw that, I was really excited. I can't think of any like weird things I heard that didn't end up happening.
I was told that Clooney's Batman was in it. And I was also told that Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern was in it.
Oh dear.
And these are quite middling reputable sources. They were kind of like, yeah, it's out, they're going to be in it. Were you spoiled at all on any of it?
Ezra Miller.
Were you? Oh.
I went on Twitter this morning right before, I woke up, was drinking my coffee, went on Twitter to check our notifications, and the very first tweet on my news feed was a picture of Grant Gustin and Ezra Miller, and it was just like, and then right below that was a tweet from Mark Guggenheim talking about how Ezra's appearance, and I was just like, okay, well, I guess that's the first thing that Jules was freaking out about.
Yeah, I sent a text saying, "Oh my god," in like capital letters. I watched them both twice because I was just determined not to be spoiled. I do some outrageous things to stop things being spoiled for me. I think it was like a week before Endgame. I was like, I wasn't using any kind of devices, but everybody on Twitter, as soon as I watched them the first time, everybody, even people we know, spoiling it. Headlines everywhere. Podcasts, major, IGN, it was their headline. John Campea, it's his headline. I just couldn't believe it. I mean, people have obviously got opinions for films.
Well,
the Russos wrote that letter, don't spoil things in TV. People seem to think it's a different...
DC fans are not that great at keeping secrets. I think we've learned this before. Like, you know, Marvel fans, the MCU people, like, they were excellent in terms of not spoiling Endgame and Infinity War and all that, and there was this huge, big community-driven thing. I think the thing is that, like, as DC fans, we get so little that when we do get something, everybody just loses their collective shit, and they start running around going like, oh my god, can you believe this happened?
Yeah. Nobody's saying it's perfect. I mean, there are a lot of imperfections here, and like you said, you find it difficult to ignore the substance, and you rarely go for style over substance, and even I can see that there are substance issues here. Like I said, I will choose to see the style. I will choose to feel the emotion this time around, because they really went for it.
Might rewatch all 5 episodes back to back.
I would really like to. I actually thought about that similarly today.
Because I do think that was the gap in between really, really hurt the momentum, and it would have been better if they were closer together. Mostly because, like, I remember being really excited about the first 3 episodes and, like, really impatient for them to come, and then, like, we finally got here, and I saw people who were, like, counting down the hours until the premieres, like yesterday, like 6 hours to go and whatever, and I was thinking I'm going to be in bed.
Yeah.
But
I curiously was up at 1 a.m. last night and actually looked to see if it could be live streamed. Just, I thought, on the off chance, but I couldn't find, so I went to bed, and I woke up at like 8, and I think I watched it at 9, the first one, 10, the second one, just for it not to be spoiled. But yeah, people were, I mean, the hashtag is trending and everything, so people are really buying into it.
People are really excited. But I'd lost the excitement that I had from the first 3 episodes going into these ones, and so it felt a little bit like just watching a normal Arrowverse episode rather than being part of the collective. And I think particularly with Legends, because they aren't often in the crossovers, and it's kind of an in-joke that they won't be in the crossovers, to have it separated, like, it needed to just feel like more connected to the first 3 episodes. So yeah, that's our thoughts on Crisis on Infinite Earths.
God knows what they'll do next year.
I know. How are they going to top this?
Cool. See you soon.
See ya.